Alright, so guys, in this video, I'm going to be talking about, like, literally everything you need to know about chickens. You might have saw that 1 hour video essay I posted a little bit over a month ago on May 7th. It's been a little bit over a month. Wow, that's crazy. I genuinely felt like that was like 19 hours ago now, but like, that was a month ago. I guess time does fly. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about, well, literally what I talked about in that video, except I'm going to make it not an hour long, because as you probably know, retention on that video was subpar to say the least. So first of all, in that video, the first thing I talked about was which chicken breeds should you get, and I brought up 3 examples of which I always talk about in my videos. And these are 3 key chicken breeds, and it's always the Buff Orpingtons, Barred Rocks, and Easter Eggers, and it's almost always in that particular order. I don't know why it's in that order, but it's always the way I say it. I brought up the pros and cons and all that other stuff with that chicken breed. The next thing I talked about in that video was, of course, something simple, known as, well, you probably guessed it already. It was, well, I forgot. It was, I think it was the essentials for getting chickens and for baby chickens. And I talked about getting a brooder, basically a brooder, and I talked about like what to do, like raising the heat lamp every now and then. And then a little bit later, I talked a little bit more in depth about like how you should control their brooder, and I also would later end up talking about stuff you should and shouldn't buy for your chickens. And I really emphasized on like stuff that's like, it's not really essential, but it would be really useful to have it. Stuff like that was like a cinder block to put in there to keep their waterer mounted, so that way you don't have to clean their brooder every day. I think I also brought up straw, because straw is also pretty useful when you're raising chickens and they're in the brooder still, because it helps absorb the water a little bit better. So that way now, instead of having all that water on the ground and you have to clean it up like twice a day, you'll end up having to clean it up maybe like 2 to 4 times per week instead of 2 to 4 times per day. Which, trust me, when they're baby chickens, for those first couple days, they'll be a mess. They'll be a disaster. They will make that place a genuine nuclear war zone. But after like a couple of days, they'll get a little bit less messy, but they'll continue playing with their food and the water. Obviously, I talked about essentials like waterers, feeders, and of course, I would end up bringing up, I'd bring up heat lamps and the light bulbs that come with that and the chains that come with that. And then after that, the next day, I remember Winter Storm, I recorded the audio clip for that on. I literally remember what I recorded the next day. It was very simple. What I recorded was telling your chickens apart. I remember I showed you some examples, showed you how to do it at certain weeks old. I actually took references from one of my videos I made last May, not this past May, but like the May back in 2023. And I talked a little bit about how to tell them apart, and then I talked a little bit about some signs like on their feathers. You'll notice like their wing feathers are a little bit more prominent in a rooster's in their first couple days, but it's really hard to tell because the difference is small. Another thing I would end up bringing up there, of course, was also like the height of their combs, which is a bit less of an accurate way to tell, but it's always at least somewhat accurate. If they have a bigger comb, then it's most likely a rooster. Alright, so next up we're going to be talking about moving them outside. Yeah, we're going to talk about moving them outside. Sorry, I am not doing the greatest today. I had a ton of essays to write today. I don't know what else to tell you. But what I will say though is that one of the things that's really important is slowly introducing them outside. One of the key pieces of information I use is moving them outside. Now, I brought up 2 examples, and I'm about to reiterate those 2 examples to you right now. So the first example is what we did with our pet flock, and the second example is what we did with our farm flock. So example number 1, we had the chickens we bought them a fence, we set it up, and that's still their fence to this day. But we didn't have a coop out there. We let them outside for a select period of time. We moved them from the upstairs. Yes, we actually did have a completed room up there until we tore it down because it is not properly built. So up there, that's where we had the chickens. It was insulated and all. So they were chilling in there with the heat lamp and everything. And then eventually, it was early May. It was like in the low 70s. We're going to be able to get them outside now. So that's exactly what we did. We let them outside. Well, not completely, but we let them back in by the end of the day. And we did this every now and then for a couple weeks, but sadly, around May 10th, we got like 3 inches of snow out of the blue, which, I mean, we were supposed to get 1 to 3 inches. I was just surprised it even stuck. Like, I remember waking up that morning and literally seeing like 3 inches of snow on the ground. I was surprised, like literally. I was shocked, flabbergasted, whatever you want to say. Now, example number 2, when you're moving them outside, is very, very simple. And that's what we did with our farm flock. And it requires 2 coops instead of just 1. You can either go to the store, buy yourself a hoop coop, or you could just build one yourself. We build all of our coops by ourselves unless we're in a really big rush. We haven't quite been in there yet, but maybe in a few years we might end up having to be in a rush to build something, so we'll just buy something and then build, and then like kind of like build onto it. Hoop coops are really simple, and I'm about to show you what a hoop coop looks like if you don't know what it looks like. It's right up here in this field. We have one of them, and it is right there. See, this is an example. It's portable, but you can move it. I'd say this coop in total is maybe a little bit heavier than me, so around 145, 150 pounds. Around there, so you can still move it, but like there's something called weight distribution, and this does not feel like 150 pounds, but it actually is. I don't know if anyone else feels that. Like, you need 2 people to carry it, or I mean, go ahead, do it yourself, doesn't matter. There's much more lightweight hoop coops, but those might have a risk of just blowing away in the wind, which I bet you do not want to happen. So for the best case scenario, get one like that, and you can put them in there until you feel like they're comfortable going outside, because in there's a ton of stuff you can add. You're gonna add like an extension cord to get a heat lamp in there and all, or you can just throw them outside in a chicken coop. That brings me to my next point. You need to build them a chicken coop or buy one. Now, chicken coops contain several key things. First of all, nesting boxes, they need those. Windows, of course, for ventilation. And they need roofing to keep anything that might try to get through the top in there. And they need reinforcement on the wall. We have 3 layers on the walls in the chicken coop. We have the outer T111 layer, the central foam layer, and then we have the inner normal wall layer. So we don't really have extremely fit, we don't have the black bears that go to the gym every day. They deadlift 250 pounds. We don't have those black bears, but we do have those types of raccoons around here, but I don't think they can get in that way. They'd like pry through the windows, which is why the windows have protection. So after this, we're gonna now talk about transitioning them into pullets. So basically, this transition goes a little bit like this. So usually you'll notice your chickens beginning to duck down, and usually at about 16 weeks old, that's when I'd recommend changing their feed from chick feeder to normal adult hen feeder, and you're gonna keep it like that for the rest of their life. They love the adult hen feeder a lot more, I feel like, but then when they get older, they get more picky, and they don't really care at the end of the day, because it's chicken feed, and they prefer treats over chicken feed because, well, they're chickens. What do you expect? They have either the highest or the lowest standards when it comes to food. Now, what I will say, though, is that this is one, if you don't have any nesting boxes in that chicken coop, you should get them. You should get the nesting boxes, even if you just go to like Ocean State Job Lot or something like that and pick up some like office crates and throw them in there with a couple screws and a drill and call it a day. Or even if you just stack them on top of each other with a small piece of plywood covering between them like we did. I don't know if I have a reference picture. Then it's good to go as long as I have that there. You need to prepare to look for their first eggs. You also want to get them adjusted there. You could add some fake eggs. But just remember, you want to make sure that they know where to lay. Eventually they'll find us, maybe in about a couple weeks. But like once that first chicken lays the egg, the next couple will begin after that. And then I'd say like by the end of the first month, if you get them laying by like the beginning of the month, you'll probably have everyone laying by the end of the month. Now here's how to care for adult chickens and when they get hurt or sick. So if you notice your chickens are getting are limping or they're like sneezing or whatever, it should be something to check out. So you want to pick up the chicken and you want to examine it. And then once you've concluded they're either injured or sick, what you want to do is you want to prepare a little cat carrier if you have one. If you don't, then I'd recommend getting one just in case you have to take one to the hospital with an injury or sickness that's obviously treatable. And then you want to fill it up with some shavings on the bottom. You don't want to really add food and water because they'll get that stuff at the veterinary hospital. Unless for whatever reason the veterinary hospital is like 3 hours away, then I'd recommend taking them on the smoother roads in that scenario because you don't want all that water to drain onto your car floors. So basically what's going to end up happening here is you're going to then call up your veterinary hospital, tell them your issues, My dog is trying to chew away at my new pair of Crocs before they're even out of the box yet, bro. My dog is crazy. Hey, could you stop? Could you stop? Like, actually, I'm asking you to stop. Right, but back on the point, they'll tell you like the information, like if they can treat it, they'll treat it, and they'll usually tell you what medications you should prescribe. They'll usually have a little like area there where like you can give them, they'll give you a prescribed amount, and they'll tell you exactly how much you should give to them a day. Most of the time you have to isolate the chickens from the rest because of special treatment, and especially because you cannot eat their eggs, especially that. This is a point at which everyone knew. Do not eat the chickens' eggs if they're on treatment until a month after they're treatment free. Alright, so now we're going to talk about like senior chickens. Like they're older, they're like usually about like 55 years old in human years. So now my chickens, right there, they're not quite that old yet, but they'll be soon. It's really simple. Give them some more love and attention. And that's it. My camera's at 2%, but I just got this camera today. It needs to still charge a little bit. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was about maybe 12 minutes, 13 minutes, 14 minutes, somewhere like 12 to 20 minutes, I'm assuming. Maybe a bit shorter. Be sure to click the video on the screen. Either one of them, the left side of the screen is a farm restoration story, a video essay. The right side of the screen's a playlist containing all of my chicken videos I've uploaded on the channel, all like 200 or something like that. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. See you then.